The beat on bar, Rudiger Zelig, quick man, mega backup for the likes of Sam Bennett, taking on a few bottles. Will he be called on later on today? I could tell you that he started off as 500 to 1 overnight, Rudiger Zelig, to take the day himself. We expect Sam Bennett to be the chosen son for Bora Hansgrohe, but he's going to have to go well. The motorcycle here being waved off by Orica Scott because they've got Daryl Impey out front. He's in a break, holding only 16 seconds. We've had various formations of breakaways, but we have a mighty trio that have formed up front, as you can see. And that trio is pushing on. Daryl Impey is there, riding extraordinarily well, as you can see. Likewise, he's been joined by Jesper Stuyven in the red and black of Trek Segafredo. In the absence of John Degenkolb, Stuyven is the chosen son. And Matteo Trentin expected to go well for Quick Step Floors. Jack Bauer, by the way, and Yves Lampaert in the chasing group at only 16 seconds at the moment. If it comes back together, it'll be a sprinter's day. So expect Andre Greipel of Lotto Soudal, who's a little bit wounded after the Tour de France. 7 years since he's not won, 7 years he has always won a Grand Tour stage, except for this year, unfortunately. So he wants cheering up. Likewise, Eli Viviani, who was not taken by Team Sky to either the Giro d'Italia or the Tour de France. They had, of course, bigger targets in both of those races. Well, Viviani is here. Peter Kennick, who was part of the breakaway push, unfortunately got himself a puncture and is now back within the chasers. There are other sprinters here who can go well. Team Katusha have been lively all day. They've been mixing it as part of the chase and often in the breakaways. Alexander Kristoff is their chosen son. Sam Bennett is the man for Bora Hansgrohe with Zelig as backup. Kort Nielsen for Orica Scott. Why not? We've got Mareshko, Zach Dempster, we've got Mark Renshaw potentially for Dimension Data if Ryan Gibbons is not the chosen man. Jesper Stuyven, Andy Fenn from Aqua Blue with their familiar chevrons. Jempe Drucker, why not, can pick it up. We believe, though, that today Michael Matthews and Team Sunweb have been the cleverest team out there. They've already had success with Corinne winning yesterday. Riviera, she did a superb job of taking the women's race, and of course Michael Matthews is here amongst the favourites if the day was going to be tough. It has been, mainly because Team Sky were trying to get men in the breakaway, so they did much of the work. And that's been a free ride for Michael Matthews, who thought about being part of the breakaway himself, this one in fact, but then thought, you know what, I think they'll be caught. We think so too. It's 18 seconds the gap only, and we're teed up for an absolute bun fight in a few moments' time. If it's not going to be the sprinters, it can be the power men, and with people like Van Mark, Van Baal, McNally, Tuns, Brandley, Bramier, Kung, Barter, Kaiser, Impey, Van Lerbacher, Van Heck, the list goes on. This is a massive race. In terms of prize money, there is none bigger on planet Earth, and the run into town up the Mall to finish in front of Buckingham Palace, surely everyone wants to win there. Absolutely. There's a lot of teams here with a big interest, and they can do it. That's the point. All to play for, Matt Stevens.
It certainly is all to play for, and this group of riders out in front are really riding strongly. They've stolen another couple of seconds by the bunch that has been led by Sunweb. And as you were going through the runners and riders and what's happened so far on the day, it counted about 60-65 riders in the group behind. So the bunch has whittled down, but still significantly big, a similar size to what we saw approaching the Mall last year, of course, where we saw Tom Bonin emerge victorious. But it is, I think, going to be very, very difficult indeed for just only three riders to stay out in front. But if you were going to pick three riders, three rouleurs, three riders who can finish very strongly indeed, it would be riders of the calibre of Daryl Impey of Orica Scott, Jesper Stuyven of Trek Segafredo, and of course Matteo Trentin of Quick Step Floors. But Sunweb are riding very hard behind, so are Lotto NL Jumbo as well, and also Team Sky I see are putting riders on the front. And saying that though, this group trio in front have stolen another 3 seconds, and the wind is in their backs. They've gone through Leatherhead. Next town for them is Oxshott.
Gosh, Oxshott. It's where all the big money men live in the City of London. And why do they live there? because there's a direct train from Oxshott to Waterloo Station, and from there you just take the bank line and you're in the heart of the financial capital of planet Earth. And so Oxshott has got some very big houses. These guys have got some very big ambition, and just look at BMC. Jempe Drucker, Stefan Kung, Manuel Kinziato, Van Hooijdonk. Gosh, this is a quality lineup that BMC bring. Likewise, Team Sky, the home team. Sunweb with Michael Matthews, who's carrying, at least in his mind, the green jersey from the Tour de France. He, of course, owns that after a spectacular Grand Tour that he's just had. Matt Stevens, who's your pick today?
Do you know what? I'm gonna go for Michael Matthews today. I think he's in great form, buoyed with confidence. Just the way he was riding up front on the climbs, following those attacks. Hope he hasn't done too much, but clearly a rider who knows himself very, very well. And he flourishes when the racing is hard. We saw that in the Tour de France, but he's also going as quick as ever. So he is my favourite. But you never know, there could be opportunities for a little group to go clear on the running, because it isn't all pan flat, it's mostly flat, but there are a couple of little opportunities for a launch pad as we head into the finish, the most significant of which comes with about 14 kilometres to go in Wimbledon. But fair play to the leaders here. They've stolen another 5 seconds, 25 seconds, but firepower behind. Although there's teams riding well, teams, because they've only brought 5 or 6 or 7 riders to this race, many of whom have been jettisoned because of the high pace that was set by Sky earlier on those climbs, it is very, very difficult to get cohesion behind. So only 4 or 5 riders riding in front, but these riders have belief. They're also in very, very good form, and they have the wind in their back. So certainly don't rule them out, but it is going to be very, very difficult for them to stay away.
Do you know who I'm going to go for?
Who are you going to go for?
I'm going to go for Phil Bauhaus, teammate of Michael Matthews.
Why not?
How
He's
strange
quick.
is that?
He's quick.
He is quick. He's had a great season as well, and I think Michael Matthews might fancy offering him a gift. He's worked extraordinarily hard for him. He is a fast man himself. Michael Matthews is great. I'm just doing it as a, if you like, as an alternative, because I think Michael Matthews is probably the favourite. The way the race is panning out, it's serving him extremely well. Orica Scott are doing a terrific job here.
Did you see that? That was Matt Hayman, who just rolled through on the roundabout, just very politely gestured to the motorbike that they should move a little bit further away. And again, we say this time and time again, the motorbikes are there for a good reason, beaming you these wonderful images, but when they get too close, there is a definite advantage for the chasers behind because of the slipstream effect, even to 10 metres, 15 metres behind the motos.
I do like Matt Hayman, winner, of course, of Paris-Roubaix himself a couple of years ago. Really, genuinely a very nice guy, but you wouldn't argue with him. He's tall, he's mean when he needs to be, but genuinely a real gent. Except if you're a cameraman who's helping out, essentially, by being too close to the chase. He says, get out of here, I've got my teammate up the road, mate. And there he is, Daryl Impey. That was a terrible impersonation, wasn't it?
It wasn't the greatest. But hey, I'm not even going to bother.
Indeed. M25, just bridging over that. Better place to be is on a closed road on your bicycle. Why not? 19 seconds with 36.5 Ks remaining. I don't think they could do it. We've seen riders skittle off the front and then have their hearts broken. Notably, of course, Geraint Thomas last year got reabsorbed very late on with a considered push once we'd been through Oxshott and indeed Esher. We'll be heading to Sandown Park, by the way. World-class horse race just on the edge of Esher. And to my mind, the best cafe in the world. It's the Giro Cafe there. Now,
I've had some cake there before.
We've
both been there, haven't we?
Best flat white on planet Earth is there. So they don't owe me one. I don't get free coffee. It just genuinely is really lovely. It's built for the riders who've enjoyed themselves out in the Surrey Hills. So you just pop down into Esher, as if you were heading to Sandown Park down the high street. I say down because it does pitch down towards the racetrack. And there you'll find it. We might even see it today, and I'm happy to give them an up because their coffee's so good.
Well, fair play. Not just a little bit further along the road, just through Esher, then to Kingston upon Thames, is one of the best bike shops in the world, Sigma Sport.
There we are. You see, you're getting it all right now, but the difference between you and me is that I've got no connection with the Giro Cafe.
Apart from having a nice brew.
whereas you and Sigma Sport are mates.
We go back. We are mates.
It's shocking, that is.
But Sigma Sport, they were lucky enough to be on the route of the time trial for the Olympic Games.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
You know you've jazz clubbed out at the moment. I can barely hear you. I don't know why. Some kind of balance issue at the moment. Stick your mic a bit closer. There we are.
Is that better?
Oh yeah. Hello,
That's
Matt.
strange.
35.3 kilometres. I don't know what was going on there. With only 21 seconds. And here we go. See what I mean about Oxshott? Look at that place there with swimming pool, tennis court, gatehouse as well. It was Chelsea's training ground as well. That's the football club, by the way. But yes, it's a lovely, lovely part of the world if you happen to have a lovely, lovely bank account. And there it is. Hyper genteel, I think we'll call Oxshott, shall we?
Hyper genteel. I've not heard that phrase before.
Well, there you are. Big houses with nothing in the back garden except an open field. That tells you all you need to know.
I think it certainly does. And one of the favourites, who I'm not too sure if he's particularly hyper genteel, he won't be in the sprint, that's for sure, is Elia Viviani. His team have worked tirelessly for him today. And there's Ian Stannard, the former British road champion, just sat at the back of the group at the moment. Peter Kenyak was there. He arguably should have been in that front group of riders. I wonder if he's thinking, do you know what, I'm kind of glad I'm sat back here now, because I've got a feeling that that group may get caught. But they have one rider at the front helping with the pacemaking, helping with the assisting. Katusha are helping with the pacemaking as well. And that indicates to me that somewhere within this group of around 60 to 65 riders is Alexander Kristoff. Otherwise, they wouldn't be riding. But the Trek riders at the front, well, they're not assisting with the pacemaking at all, because their protected rider is in the front group. So they are just going to try and slow things down as much as they can and leave it all to, I think it's Niels Pollitt, who's on the front at the moment, the big, rangy German.
Just looking at what a big unit Ian Stannard is, he punches a massive hole in the air. He'll be, I think, part of the engine room that will deliver Eli Viviani. And there is Viviani himself, probably one of the most aerodynamic noses you're likely to find out there. He really does spear through the air quite remarkably. We'll see whether he manages to get himself into a better position, because right now he's back with the Kaya Royale boys, and that means at the back, just for the time being anyway. See whether he managed to reinvigorate himself for the end. There's a little cloud hanging over Viviani at the moment, because the word is he's leaving Team Sky, because they haven't really delivered him or allowed him to go and play in the Grand Tours. And as a sprinter, that's essentially what you want. That's where your reputation is built against all of the best sprinters. But what an amazing collection of sprinters we have here, with names like Christoph Bennett, Kort Nielsen, Michael Matthews, Andre Greipel, Viviani. This is a stellar group. I haven't even named them all. No, and
I think Andy Fenn, you could have mentioned them at Wout van Aert, Jakob Maretsko, the very, very fast finishing Italian riding on the Pro Continental squad of Pippo Pizzato. That's Villa Trestina Cell Italia. So there are a few names to conjure with, and also Jean-Pierre Drucker, as he's known, the Luxembourg rider for BMC, recently took a win, a bunch sprint in fact, in the Tour of Wallonia, and a former winner of this race, so watch out for him in the black and red of the American Swiss squad.
So we're leaving Oxshott and heading towards the slightly less genteel, but still very genteel, Esher.
Very genteel indeed.
Yes, exactly. Doesn't have quite the same direct train line into town as Oxshott does, but Esher nonetheless is still quite shishi. Ishi the shishi, you could say. But yes, the Claremont Landscape Gardens, I'm sure we'll be passing by those. And of course, you can tell what I mean. Not necessarily royalty, but royalty of sorts in Esher. George Harrison.
Oh, definitely.
Spent a lot of time here, you know, with his sitar of the Beatles. And Maurice Gibb as well of the Bee Gees. He also lived in Esher.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Pop royalty.
Yeah. In fact,
pop/rock royalty, I think I should say there.
Yeah, Maurice Gibb actually sold a manor to a friend of mine in North Norfolk. Yes.
One of my favourite parts of Norfolk.
Yeah, go on. What, North?
North Norfolk, yeah.
Yes, it is absolutely beautiful. It rolls a bit, yes. But anyway, that's for another day. She had to take all the gold taps out of it, by the way, when she moved in. Well, you know.
There we go.
Seriously. 24 seconds. It was East Barsham Manor, if you want to know. Anyway, Morris also lived in Esher. 31.4 kilometres. I've been around you. 25 seconds is the gap. And the green of this part of the world is something outstanding. That's possibly because it rains a lot. These guys kicking up a storm, but at the moment, only 25 seconds is the gap. Can they possibly sustain it? You must not take these guys lightly.
Well, I think a few of the big sprinters teams are just sitting back at the moment. They're just allowing Nils Politt of Katusha to set that kind of tempo. But what I think the sprinter teams are thinking is, we can't give these guys too much leeway, but if we bring them back too early, we've then got to set a tempo, try and slow things down a little bit, because there's so many punchy riders, so many teams without pure sprinters that I think will try and attack this race. So I think the sprinters teams, although they certainly won't want to let these riders get above 25-30 seconds, because believe you me, they're very powerful, they've got the wind in their backs, and they will ride all the way to the line to try and fight out the victory. They're certainly also not going to want to open the race up as well. So a difficult kind of balancing, conjuring act as we head into the final 30 Ks of this race.
Just looking at the back here, and we find André Greipel. 28 seconds is the gap. André Greipel is the gorilla stalking. Can a gorilla stalk?
I don't know if you... Yeah, I suppose you can stalk a gorilla. It's a dangerous game, though, isn't it? It's a very, very dangerous game. Yeah. But 28 seconds now, and to answer your question that you asked me just a few moments ago, they're pulling away now. But will we see some other teams really start to assist with the pace making? But in the Grand Tours, of course, teams have got 9 riders at the disposal. Here, they've only got 6 or 7. And when you include a team leader and you include a vastly thinned down field because of the climbs, because of the speed primarily being set by Team Sky, teams do not have a lot of resources at their disposal. So it's a rather kind of, I don't know, as you were kind of situation in the front. 1 or 2 riders riding at the front, but the teams with protagonists out in front aren't assisting with the pacemaking. And Trek Segafredo in the red and black there with 4 riders massing near the front with the blue jerseys of Quick Step Floors. They're actually going to try and disrupt what's happening out in the front. And at the moment, number 55 riding hard there. Well, that is Raymond Sinkeldam. He is the Dutch national road race champion. And I must admit, when we're looking at that jersey, that isn't what a national champion's jersey should be like, if you ask me.
Do you know what?
It was a bit controversial when he got his national champs jersey, wasn't it?
Yes. But champs jerseys should basically be
the flag.
The flag.
The flag.
That's it. But then again, what about the Brits and the hoops?
Well, they normally do get the Brits and the hoops. We normally do get.
I mean, why
Steve
not just a splat Union Jack? How far do you go?
There you go. Well, it's been the national champs bands have been the same for many years. It's just an element of the flag rather than the flag itself.
Essentially, what we want is the traditional national colours, not the trade team colours, forming the major part of the jersey.
That's what we're saying.
Thank you very much. Coming into Esher then, Sandown Park starts to beckon. Esher, by the way, Queen Victoria lived here in Claremont House, so it had a whiff of a bit more royalty than you would think. And Henry VIII had his hunting ground out here. The old fat so-and-so used to come out here and basically rest his belly on a horse and try and down some game. There we are. I can say it now because the risk of me having being strung up and quartered has receded of late. 28.3 kilometres then from home, and 32 seconds is the gap. And Trek, Katusha, Sunweb also with a hand on the pump, as it were. Alexander Kristoff fancies today, quite clearly, and they've put a bit of zip, of vim and vigour into this. He's got Michael Morkov as part of his lead out. Marco Haller will start it, and Rick Zabel will finish it off. That's a strong lead out train for Kristoff, who was finding his form towards the end of the Tour de France. Can he bridge to this?
Well, as you say, he's got his really trusted lead-out train in this race, which indicates that Katusha are taking this race very serious indeed. As you said, Michael Morkov, one of his key lead-out riders, Marco Haller as well. They are the 2 riders that form the last part of the Team Katusha Alpecin riders' lead-out train, of course. And as we can see by the formation, by the fact they've got riders at the front, he is in the mix and clearly feeling good. But fair play to the 3 riders out in front at the moment. They've extended their lead now to 34 seconds, despite the furious pace being set by the riders behind. And just looking at the composition of this group and how the form of the riders in the group, only one of the riders in the front group, and that's Daryl Impey, has actually had a win this year. He's had 2 wins. He won the South African TT Championships, and remember, we commentated on that stage win in the Tour of Catalonia where he put away Alejandro Valverde. So both Stuyven and Matteo Trentin both searching for their first win of the 2017 season.
Run on Zinkeldam just did a very, very big turn for Team Sunweb on the front. This is to allow Michael Matthews and Phil Bauhaus as their default option. Indeed, allowing them to ease their legs a little bit. No such luxury for the trio out front. They've done a good job. And Sunweb still burying themselves here, and Zinkeldam wants to get re-engaged here.
He certainly does. Well, Zinkeldam has got assistance from Katusha, but I thought this really, they're not. I don't think they really want to try and bring this back. They're going to need some assistance from some of the other teams. I see Team Sky have also put a rider up there. They've ridden this race very, very aggressively. I think they've had two plans in mind. One was to try and put Peter Kenyak up the road in a potential race-winning breakaway, and plan two was to try and keep things together, albeit with a whittled-down group. I think that's the third time I've said whittled in this conversation, in this commentary so far, to look at after Elia Viviani. But with the wind in their back, it is very, very difficult to try and bring back a breakaway with a composition such as this. Three very, very strong rouleurs. Also, all of them very, very fast finishers as well.
Well, we're just passing by Giggs Hill Green. There's no hill, but there is indeed a cricket ground here. We're becoming past, indeed, the Scilly Isles roundabout. Do you know why it's called the Scilly Isles roundabout?
Tell me.
Well, maybe you'll see it. Some town planners got involved, and I think basically they'd eaten spaghetti and thought, you know, well, that looks great. Let's just do that. They put two roundabouts together with side sub-roads which actually meet the roundabout. It's hyper confusing when you get there, and basically the locals said this roundabout is so silly, we're going to call it the Scilly Isles roundabout. And because the name stuck, it's now the official name of the junction.
There you go.
There you go.
I think I've probably negotiated it in the car or even on a bike myself.
You know, just
in
the
past.
bottom of Esher as you're heading towards Kingston there.
Yes, I do know it.
And so there's slip roads all over the place, fast ways of getting on the roundabout, slow ways of getting on the roundabout, two roundabouts stuck together.
Overly convoluted.
It's basically silly. 25.1 kilometres then from home, 35 seconds is the gap. What about Cannondale today? I don't think Whippet is going to win in the sprint, but will Van Baal and Van Mark go for a late charge? I think they will. Quite
possibly. I'm not too sure if I could see Walter Whippet there, but definitely Dylan Van Baal and Sepp Van Mark. They've been at the head of affairs for the vast majority of the day. Also, Sebastian Langveld. Ryan Mullen was riding well, but definitely Van Baal and Van Mark in the front. Wouldn't be surprised if it was William Clark as well, but not too sure about Whippet at the moment. I think if Whippet was there, we might see Cannondale Drapac assisting with the pacemaking a little bit. But quite often, when you see teams put numbers on the front, a lot of the other sprinters teams actually think, well, they're doing a pretty good job so far. We're just going to leave it till a little bit later. But that's when this brinkmanship comes into play, and it does get a little bit dangerous, because if you leave these runs with too much leeway with a tailwind finish, it's going to be very, very difficult to bring them back. 36 seconds, or 35 seconds, sorry, is the lead now.
We just passed by some of the flood pools, which are a flood defence of old. And they wanted to build some houses around here, and the local residents objected, so they've just stayed as flood pools, which is a bit of a shame. They should be used for something. Nonetheless, lovely stretch of river. We're just coming into Kingston upon Thames. We're way ahead of schedule, by the way, at the moment, and we have only got, what, 23 Ks remaining. I think we're going to be done before 6 o'clock, the way things are going. This is fast pace, just coming past Woodbines Avenue, where my brother used to live. And they're going to take a right turn in a few moments' time and start heading back over for towards Wimbledon, in fact, and our Continental Tyres sprint, our final intermediate. How much are they getting paid for these intermediate sprints?
I think the remuneration is quite high on the sprints, but I'm not just sure the exact amount on offer, but I know it is quite considerable and very, very worthwhile.
£1,000.
Similar to, well, the same as the ladies' event yesterday.
1,000 of your English pounds, indeed.
Coming
in past the marketplace here, dead centre, past the statue of Queen Victoria. There's one of Henry VIII in here somewhere as well. But yes, the rattle of the brickwork, which has characterised this mostly pedestrian zone, where the little food halls, by the way, in the square are rather nice. You get an Indian there, little takeaway.
It's a place I've spent many a time in, and lots of nice restaurants and bars just along the front there before the bridge, which you can just see in the top left of your screen there. Definitely worth a visit to Kingston upon Thames.
Yep, They're going to take. In fact, are they crossing the bridge at this point? I think they're not. They're staying on this side of the river and heading off towards Wimbledon. And indeed, we will be a world-class Olympic venue, the All England Tennis Club. It's actually the Croquet and Tennis Club, if you're going to name it correctly, by the way. The old lawns, which is why we had lawn tennis, were originally used for croquet, not tennis. There we are. So it was croquet first, tennis second. Here we go then, finding ourselves the Wimbledon Road. It's not the prettiest of routes out of Kingston, I'll give you that, but nonetheless it does get prettier as we head past Wimbledon Common and then indeed into town. 22.5 k's remaining. You always forget that London is so compact and indeed largely residential, at the centre these days given over largely to business. Half a minute, that's all they've got, but they've had that for quite some time, Matt.
Yeah, they've had gone up to 35 seconds, then back down to 25, back up to 30. A real kind of status quo has kind of fallen upon this race since they've crested Box Hill, but a big group of riders behind. And sadly, I think for our three main protagonists, Impey, Stuyven and Trentin, there's still more firepower to come from the group behind. A lot of teams holding things back. I think very conscious that Katusha and Sunweb are doing a very good job. Also with Team Sky, I just saw Teo Geoghegan Hart at the front pulling for Team Sky, looking after Elia Viviani. But once another couple of teams get in the mix on the run into the line, when they can really believe that this group is going to come back, I think it could be curtains. But they are certainly making it very difficult for the bunch behind, being assisted by that tailwind as we see Hampton Court Palace, of course, home of Henry VIII. Not right now, he's passed away many years ago. But
he has.
Yeah.
In fact, Cardinal Wolsey was the man who built it and then met a sticky end, I'm afraid. Who will rid me of this troublesome priest, etc. And in fact, the largest building of its time, built out of brick. There we are. It was all stone before then, and then the brickworks fired up, and they built this magnificent place. The gardens, by the way, are spectacular. I'm trying to think of a cheap way of you getting in there. But it's hard to find one. But anyway, nonetheless...
That, of course, was the start point for the time trial in the Olympic Games as well.
Yeah, you can wander around the gardens, a large part of them for free. And in the wintertime, it's cheaper to actually go in the house. So summertime, it's a bit expensive. Give it a break. The original vine, by the way, of Henry VIII, where he made his own wine, you can actually still go and buy the grapes from the vine, which is still alive from Henry VIII's time. It is a very impressive vine. The grapes,
not so.
Try. Yeah, they vary, like the King's mood. 20.8 kilometres to go. Now, the rises and falls you've got here, it adds impetus to the break, and in fact, you're out of sight with a gap of 27 seconds at the moment. The hounds can't see the hares on occasion.
This is this long drag up through Wimbledon. 28 seconds is the gap. But you just see again another one of the riders from Trek Segafredo remonstrating with the motorbike. They are giving a little bit of advantage to the chasing group, despite giving us some great pictures, and that's why, just if any of you are wondering what that rider was doing remonstrating, that is the reason, to try and just move the motorbike a little bit so it's not giving quite as much aerodynamic assistance to the bunch.
Yeah, indeed, and that's because they've got Jesper Stuyven, very handy sprinter. You probably would say, well, he's no Degenkolb. Well, on a day like this, he possibly can be. The trouble is, his sprinter's legs will be tuckered out just a little bit by the fact that he's been in the break here. He's with Daryl Impey, who's no slouch himself. I'm beginning to wonder when we're going to believe that these 27 seconds might stick. They could probably do with 2 minutes with a dedicated chase. And look how strung out it is at the moment. Everyone's dedicated at the moment to victory.
Absolutely flat out up this long drag. In fact, many riders struggling to hold the wheels here. Real furious pace being set by the red of Katusha Alpecin and the red and white. That was Sinkeldam's just pulled over now. That was a very long turn by the Dutch national road race champion. I think his day is done, but this is a very difficult sector. After this, it drops down and then it's flat all the way to the run into the line. Most of the time, of course, they're running parallel with the River Thames, but this is the part where they just drop inland a bit, kick over, and then drop down. But they've managed to hold them off at 25 seconds. So I thought the lead might just drop away on that nasty little drag. And it just shows that these three riders in front, in good form, still full of fight. I think they believe, but I still think it's going to be very, very difficult for them to hold off this bunch, because as I said before, we've only got 2 teams riding, and there are other teams with good sprinters yet to assist with the pacemaking.
We're going to pass by Wimbledon Common, one of the biggest commons. A common, by the way, was an area where you're allowed to go and graze your own horses, so you can rest them up, stake them out, and basically stay the night somewhere else. So common land, as it were. And Wimbledon Common extends to 1,140 acres.
Wow.
Yeah, there we are. It's big. We'll be sailing down the side of it. As you can see, it's largely residential these days, and quite chic as well, not least, of course, the tennis club, where membership is offered to those on the waiting list who've been there for a lifetime, or indeed those that win the championship. That's the short way to do it. Boris Becker, of course, pulled on his green jacket when he was a teenager. 25 seconds then, with 18.5 kilometres remaining. They are holding station now. They're not hanging around either. This has been a concerted push by these 3. They mean it.
They certainly do mean it. They broke away, of course, on the on the penultimate climb of the day on Ranmore Hill. They had Peter Kenyak with them originally, who dropped back to the bunch because of an untimely puncture, and then it was this rider on front, Daryl Impey, the South African riding for the Australian squad, Orica Scott, jumped across the gap and then added that little bit more impetus. For 2 riders, very, very difficult, but for 3 riders, all in very good form, there is a possibility, but slowly but surely the lead is coming down, and it's still only Katusha, the Russian squad, of course, Katusha Alpecin, and I think Ramon Sinkeldamp, the Dutch rider, has managed to get back in contact, or is another rider from Sunweb. Remember, Michael Matthews is in that group, and Trek Segafredo in the red and black, and also Quick Step Floors in the blue. They're essentially blocking at the moment, will not assist with the pacemaking, try and slow things down. But for the first time, as we see Nils Pollitt, the strong German rider for Katusha Alpecin on the front, 20 seconds is our lead now. It's slowly starting to come down.
Yeah, they're beginning to lean on Sunweb, saying, come on, if you want to bully us at the end, then you're going to have to at least put in some work right now. There we are. Well, they're calling at the motorcycles here. What's he after? That's the question. Anything serious? Matteo Trentin getting very, very vocal.
I think he's just asking for a time gap there to drop down now to 16 seconds. That was the SRAM neutral service vehicle, a motorbike.
Well, there is a lack of information here. I can't see any lumps from radios either, so they're not being offered the gap. It's not being graphically represented or accurately either for us, I'm afraid. As they make the big turn here, Wimbledon High Street, and they're heading on. They'll be heading for Putney Bridge before you know it. Once they go over that, famous, of course, for the Oxford and Cambridge boat race annually, which is an informal world championship for students, essentially. They come from all around the world to represent a boat and university or another. Big turn, thinning out again. "15 seconds only, 16.7 kilometers from home." I think they know that they're doomed, and their tempers were starting to fray. You heard Matteo Trentin screaming at the neutral bike, asking for some kind of information. No chalkboard here. Well, maybe chalking up a win for Alexander Kristoff. Not quite sure, but he's hyper motivated, clearly. Marco Haller, who's part of his lead-out train, is doing a bit of rocking and rolling work here. In fact, Kristoff himself is up towards the fore here. Looking back at Trek Segafredo, they've got Stuyven, their fast men, up there, but Matthias Brandley and Ted Turns, I think, may well be minded to attack. If that gap looks like it may well be bridged, and Quickstep themselves have got options with the likes of Jack Bauer, despite the fact they've got Trentin up there. Richesi is their chosen sprinter, and he's no slouch when it comes to a sprint either. There's a sort of a mock drive at the front here, and I suggest that Team Sunweb, I think it's Turnison who's gone up to have a look, looks over his shoulder, and in fact it's their principal, Soren Andersen, who's gone up there to rock, and he has a look, almost dismissively so, and it looks like the chase is breaking down a little bit. Expect that 15 seconds to just swell ever so slightly, with 15.7 to go, a second for every kilometre. It's not enough.
It's looking very, very tenuous at the moment, and on these long straight roads, the bunch, for the first time really, will have their foil in sight. Trentin hits the front now, driving as hard as he can, but the difference in riding in the front here, they of course have spent many kilometers out in front. They're also thinking about the possibility of saving just a little bit of energy to fight it out for the win. with the group behind, the Domestiques leading the chase. Their race is when this group is caught. So there's a different style of commitment behind, and it just looks like that's more than 13 seconds perhaps. Still Katusha Alpecin on the front. Nils Pollitt, the big German, driving hard. He's got assistance as well from, I think it's Rick Zabel up there in the mix, and also Michael Morkov. But Alexander Kristoff clearly in the mix somewhere. He is very, very dangerous. 13 seconds is now the lead, and a rapturous welcome as we slowly but surely, this is a nasty little drag. This heads up the high street, then flicks right at the top. It could be here where the junction is made. This is a nasty little drag up.
Yeah, gnarly, I think you'd call it. And still they're begging for information about the gap. It's locked at 13 seconds. You think it's a little bit more. I think it's a little bit less. Let's have a look when we get to the top. This is Wimbledon Village. This is where a lot of these houses, by the way, are hired out to the stars. They're not rentals. It's just that they come along, they send their agent and said, look, what about £5,000 to go away for the week? And going away and saying farewell, I'm afraid, out of this particular break. It's a tough old day, and Daryl Impey has thought, you know what, I've done all I can today. Brave effort. Magnus Cort Nielsen for him, with Alexander Edmondson, I think, doing the lead out for Cort Nielsen at the end. Matt Hayman will be involved as well, but I'm afraid Daryl Impey's challenge has now met its match. It's still locked at 13 seconds. That's suspicious, I'm afraid, that gap. And we'll start counting back for you right now and wait for everybody else to come and join the fun. There's a white line bit across the road, and when they cross it, I'll be able to give you an accurate gap in just a few moments' time. And in fact, they're about to cross it now, and it's 16 seconds. So Matt, you're right, 13 is incorrect. It's actually bigger than that at the moment, but I see it closing soon with 14.2 to go.
Yeah, still Nils Pollitt of Germany for riding for the Katusha Alpecin squad, pressing home on the front. Just a couple of places behind is also Marco Haller. So two of the key lead-out riders having to try and bring this back. And then we saw the blue block of Quick Step Floors. And then the riders of Trek Segafredo all up near the front, trying to block and slow things down just a little bit. But slowly but surely, their lead is gradually being reduced. Of course, Daryl Impey just couldn't hold on to the furious tempo up that little climb there in Wimbledon. It's a significant little climb. It's a climb last year where we saw Ian Stannard attack, and then latterly Geraint Thomas. But it does look as if the breakaways' days are really numbered, as one by one the Sunweb riders in the black and white also start assisting with the pacemaking.
There are two Katusha riders on the nose, and there are three further back, and those three happen to be Alexander Kristoff, Michael Morkov and Rick Zabel. That's a fighting force, and Kristoff clearly is designing himself into today. There's the All England Club. That's where your tennis gets played, at Wimbledon, and it's hardly quiet throughout the year, but it's certainly no louder than when the Wimbledon Championship gets underway. And indeed, they've just finished their All England Club event.
They certainly have. They certainly have.
13.1 to go, 16 seconds. They've matched our time check. 17 now. They're slowly but surely finding the gap that we've been suggesting of late, and I think that's accurate now at 18 seconds with 12.9 to go. They're doing a good job. They're
doing a very, very good job indeed. Will it be enough though? I was just looking back. You were looking at where the Katusha riders were placed in that group. As you said, they've got two riders on the front trying to bring it back, but also strategically, importantly, saving a couple of lead-out riders for Alexander Kristoff, and the same can be said as well for Team Sunweb. They've got Soren Kragh Andersen driving hard at the front with Raymond Sinkeldam, but they've left Tjørnesen, Stam Schneider and Phil Bauhaus. I think I saw Nikias Arndt in the mix, all there. They're the main lead-out riders for Michael Matthews as well. So the team in black and white and the team in the red kit, both but have basically riders hard that sat on the front, to try and bring this break back, but they're still saving reserves for the lead-out train as well, and that's where we see the pace really lifted in the last 5 or 6 kilometres.
Where's Andre Greipel?
I think he's still in this group, sat pretty at the back. Clearly is pretty happy with what's going on at the front, and this is what we've seen latterly in the last few years. Teams, especially with small amounts of numbers, leaving it very, very late for the lead out. I think that's what we're going to see. I think it is going to be so difficult for these riders to hold out. I think it might all come back together in the last 2 or 3 kilometres.
Corinne Rivera didn't actually hit the front until the very last metre yesterday.
She didn't,
and that was all she needed to win it. And let that be a warning to absolutely everybody out there that don't imagine for one moment that André Greipel is not going to be up there towards the pointy end at the very moment when it matters. Likewise, Jempi Drucker for BMC. He's got good lead-out men as well. Stefan Kung will be punching a big hole in the air. Viviani, haven't really spoken too much about him, although we have picked him out on occasion. He'll also be part of proceedings. Ben Swift was busy early. He will be there for UAE Emirates in their black, white, red and green. Magnus Cort Nielsen for Orica Scott will come to the fore, you can be sure of it, after Daryl Impey's done a big softening up job out there. Sam Bennett for Bora. He started off with many people's favourite for today. He's on stellar form, and he was on the Giro. He's got some big names to beat here, but names who are likely to be slightly diminished after the exertions of the Tour de France. Christophe was coming good at the end of the Tour. He believes he can beat Matthews. But goodness me, Sam Bennett's got a major chance here today. And with good lead out as well from the likes of Rudiger Zelig, I think he's got a stellar chance.
He certainly has. No, there's still a lot of riders in the mix. So Elia Viviani in there too. So we've spotted most of the race favourites still in this this reduced peloton of around 60 riders, but it's only 2 teams doing the driving. Of course, it's so important that these main sprinters have a couple of riders for the lead-outs. Although Michael Matthews is more than capable of freestyling and doing his own sort of sprint, ideally he wants to be ushered and taken to the line by teammates that he knows and trusts. And it is a real sprinter's finish today. When they go through Admiralty Arch, of course, the mall opens out in the shadow of Buckingham Palace, arguably one of the most iconic sprint finishes now in the world of cycling.
Yes, indeed. Ten kilometres remaining of the Ride London Surrey Classic, and only the 5th incarnation of the great race, and it's found a firm place in the hearts of well, quick men and breakers. We've had plenty of breakaways. There's a duo up front at the moment, but they're looking slightly forlorn. Matteo Trentin of Quick Step Floors is still up there. Jesper Stuyven from Trek Segafredo as well. However, they only have a margin of 16 seconds on the chasers, and they're determined because there's some quick men here and they want to have their fun. Breakaways can cause a surprise here. They've done it on 2 occasions. 2 of the others, though, it's been a mass sprint with breakaways' hearts broken at the very, very last. We saw Geraint Thomas exactly that last time by. Putney Bridge has indeed now been crossed, or is about to be, by our break. 16 seconds later, you're going to see these guys coming here. Christoph's Team Katusha have done a lot of work. The blue men working for Richese of Quick Step Floors, who've had riders up the road for much of the day, including Ilio Kaiser and, of course, now Matteo Trentin. Jack Bauer might be a bet in the twisty-turny stuff once we get into the centre of town. Putney Bridge, where the boat race indeed is a centre stage on the water. These guys going over the top, and about 50 riders will be up for it at the end. André Greipel, haven't seen much of him, but hoping he's within this group to make it fun. Viviani, Team Sky have done a lot of work. They've been part of breakaways, and now they want to tee up the fast Italian. Michael Matthews, though, and Phil Bauhaus, not quite sure where the duties will lie. Will it be the green jersey man, or will he do the young German sprinter who's on great form a favour? He was super in the Giro, was Bauhaus. He could be super again today for Team Sunweb. Sam Bennett, the Irishman, for Bora Hansgrohe, will have some options later on, so watch them in their sort of dark bluey black. Also Magnus Cort Nielsen for Orica Scott, with Matt Hayman and indeed Alexander Edmondson leading him in. Daryl Impey, who was in the break, has dropped back, maybe to help out, we'll see. Katusha, though, clearly fancy it. Team Sunweb are stalking, but don't be surprised if some of the big names come to the fore of the world of sprinting. Viviani and Greipel can't be counted out. Ben Swift from UAE Team Emirates, and plenty of other quick men as well. We'll have some fun in just over 7.5 kilometres time.
It's now Niels Pollitt who takes over from the front. He's also got Rick Zabel, who's just moved up the front. So Rick Zabel, the son of Eric Zabel, the multiple winner of the green jersey competition in the Tour de France, is there. A very, very quick finisher himself, but today on domestique duties, and the gap has got up now 17 seconds for our 2 leaders, both Trentin and Jesper Stuyven. both evenly matched. Two strong riders, as we said before, riders who can finish it off from a group, but also can ride solo too. 25 years of age is Stuyven, fourth in Paris-Roubaix this year. Matteo Trentin, 27 years of age, multiple stage winner in the Tour de France, and also the Giro d'Italia. Two classy bike riders. Have they got enough to hold off a rampaging peloton?
Let's think, shall we, about who may well be a side option. You're looking at Lotto Jumbo here. Paul Martins can turn a wheel rather quickly. I don't think it's going to be Lars Bohm today. He's looked a bit out of sorts. What about Ryan Gibbons or Mark Renshaw for Dimension Data? I think someone like Scott Thwaites might actually go for a long one.
Oh, definitely. I think, Scott Thwaites was looking very good earlier on. He was in that second group on the road after this initial break went clear. So clearly climbing well, clearly has got good legs. Not too sure if Gibbons is there, but if Gibbons is there, he had a standout opening Grand Tour of his career. Multiple top 10 finishes in the bunch sprint. So I agree, definitely a good outside bet should he be part of that group just behind our two leaders.
Jakob Maresco for Villa Triestina. I've seen a Wilier jersey up here. I think it might be Pozzato, however, and those days are gone for him. Yeah, Jempi Drucker from BMC could be an option. So watch the men in black and red with BMC written on the jersey. There's so much black and red here this year.
Lots of black and red.
Gavazzi or Paolini for Androni Zydemek. I think Gavazzi is slightly second-hand today. Consoni likewise, I'm afraid. Looks like he's been consigned to the also-rans today. Richesi, why not for Quick Step today?
Richesi, I'm trying to see if I can spot Maximiliano Richesi in there. Number 5 is Yves Lampere. Number 1 is Jack Bauer. They're just in the blue, right in the blue at the bottom of our screen. And number 7 there, that's Julien Vermote, actually. I don't think Richesi is there. I've only spotted 3 quick-step riders in the group. Not a surprise, Richesi, a real pure sprinter. Although he can get over the climbs, sometimes particularly well. Took out the points jersey in the Tour of Switzerland last year. Unless he's dropped a little bit further back, but I would expect him to be up at the front with his teammates, should he have been in this group.
Jerome Bonnier from Wanty Group Gobert has been on good form of late. He's got Mark McNally and Kenny de Haas as backup to bring him in. So here we are, side of the Thames, 5.5 kilometres from home. We'll be passing Chelsea Bridge, Battersea Power Station, and Nine Elms will be on your radar in a few moments' time. And of course, Parliament Square, Whitehall. We saw a lot of that yesterday. And then we take the turn down St James's Park. And of course, the finish into the front of Buckingham Palace up the Mall. What a finish it is.
It's an absolutely spectacular finish, a wonderful finish yesterday to the women's London Surrey Classic. Who is going to emerge victorious today? Will it be these two, or will it be somebody from the bunch?
5 kilometres to go, 2 men up the road, big chase on at the moment, huge sprint options behind. It looks like that's going to be the case, that these are going to get wound in, this pairing. They've been so brave. Trentin on the front now in the blue and white for Quick Step Floors, sharing the duties as he has been with Daryl Impey, who's faded, but Jesper Stuyven remains from Trek Segafredo. Neither of them, we believe, are going to be the principal choices for their teams, and indeed they're starting to look right now occasionally behind themselves, taking a trackies look between their legs. With only 15 seconds and 4.5 kilometres remaining, it's surely going to be about the quick teams. Michael Matthews is beautifully teed up here. They've been hiding for much of the day. Katusha have done a lot of work, maybe too much, and that's been the case on many occasions. If they haven't done too much, then Kristoff will be a feature, and indeed I think they realise that it's almost handshake time for our breakaway here. Only 4.2 to go.
4.2 to go, and it is Jesper Stuyven of Trek Segafredo who takes the front. But look at the style, Carlton, of both of these riders. Despite being deep into the race with only just over 4Ks to go, consummate, stylish riders still trying to force as much power out of their bodies as they can, making it look almost effortless. 16 seconds is the gap, but another team have now joined in with the chase. That could be the death knell for these two riders in front. BMC joining in the mix, and now Orica Scott as well, moving up on the outside as well in the green and blue.
This is for Magnus Cort Nielsen. Daryl Impey had dropped back, and he's actually part of that lead-out train for the men in Deglo, yellow, green and dark blue. And look who's coming up to join the party. Cannondale Drapac. Walter Rippert wants a piece of today. Maybe Will Clark as well a little bit late on. 3.6 to go. Many teams now with options.
Another team that was moving up with the team that arguably have animated this race the most from the midway through. That was Team Sky. They're moving up on the outside as well. Still strong in number, looking after the Olympic Omnium track champion Elia Viviani, looking to end his tenure with Team Sky with a bit of a bang. And it is Sunweb on on the front. Trek Segafredo in second wheel.
Oh, they're not alone either, because Dimension Data are coming up, and I think Mark Renshaw would love to do it. If Mark Cavendish is watching in on the Eurosport Player, he's going to be screaming as well and throwing buns all over the place if Mark Renshaw can get himself into a decent position. His King lead-out man, of course, might be Ryan Gibbons as the choice for them, led in by Scott Thwaites, I'm sure. Bit zip up of the jersey here by Matteo Trentin, who's kind of done his job. 11 seconds only, 2.9 to go. They'll be taking a turn by St James's Park once they leave. Whitehall will be there before you know it. The higher the buildings, the more expensive the real estate. And believe me, there's a big prize up for grabs at the end of the next 2.7 kilometres. 10 seconds they hold at the moment, this breakaway.
Stuyven drives hard on the front now. 3 Ks to go. The ticker just slightly out, so 3 desperately difficult kilometres. Pan flat, but the wind is in their back. But more importantly, the peloton being led by Sunweb and Katusha are breathing down their necks, and in a few moments' time we'll have them within their sights.
Somebody's got to pick it up and add a bit of pace here. 10 seconds it says, but I think the margin's just a little bit bigger than that. Nothing too serious, you understand, but they're going to have to work to close it down. Lars Bohm is back and in the house, but it's Paul Martins, I believe, the young German who Lotto Jumbo will be working for. Just over 2 kilometres to go. I believe it's about 2.7, by the way. The ticker's in error. We'll wait for the 2 kilometre marker, and then of course the Flamme Rouge going for an early one. Katusha want to rough this up and make everyone work hard for it.
Well, that's interesting. That's a Nils Pollitt has just gone over the top. I think he should be leading the bunch, but what is happening is you're seeing the riders from Quickstep and also the riders from a couple of the other teams actually leaving them and blocking and trying to disrupt the attack from behind.
Pollitt went off. He's lost drive. I'm afraid he's gone backwards. We wait for the Flamme Rouge. In fact, we wait for the 2K marker. The ticker's in error, I'm afraid. These guys still believe that they've got a chance here, but it's an ever-thinning one. Coming into Whitehall right now, about to head for St James's Park and indeed the Mall. We'll wait indeed for that 2K to go marker, and here they are. It's all bar done for the time being in a superb place. Team Sunweb at the moment.
It is Orica Scott actually on the front now, the Australian team, as we just lose sight of the peloton under the trees there, but they've got about 1,500 metres to go now. Not long at all, a handful of seconds for our 2 leaders. I think it's going to be advantage peloton.
I think it is going to be advantage peloton right now. We're coming into Parliament Square, past, of course, the mother of all parliaments, and Westminster Abbey. Absolutely beautiful. Shame you have to pay to go in there. Which I think is a disgrace. Nonetheless, as we come into and approaching the Flamme Rouge, a little bit further than that to go at the moment. They're going to come down past St James's Park. Look at who's involved, and Orica Scott setting their stall out for Magnus Cort Nielsen. Could be a magnificent day for him. Will Clark and Walter Whippet are also up there for Cannondale Drapac at the moment, and Andre Greipel is in the house. Lotto Soudal in the red and white are just off the bottom of your screens at the moment, so watch out for him. Likewise, I can tell you that Bora Hansgrohe, Sam Bennett and Rudiger Zelik are locked together there right now as well in their sort of aqua helmets and dark blue. Belgian champion also right up here as well.
And that Michael Matthews just on the right-hand side has been brought up by his Sunweb teammates as well. But Orica Scott, it's Docker, Mitch Docker goes to the front. It looks like they're also looking around for what?
And Andre Greipel as they come in towards the Mall. Greipel is in there, but you can also see that Viviani has been displaced. Here's your big drive, and in fact the sprint finish is all bar upon us right now, and they can't decide who is going to take it out. Big drive at the moment by Rudiger Zelik trying to get Sam Bennett into position. This is absolutely superb. Zelik and Sam Bennett. Zelik it is that picks it up at the moment. It's everyone else to try and beat him, and they run out of legs. Bora Hansgrohe are really going to bury themselves for this one. Absolutely superb. I think they've mistimed him behind. Bennett goes for this, just close to the barriers. Viviani are right on the other side of the road. Viviani by himself goes for it. Dead centre at the moment. It's Christoph who's going to get there. Oh, clever stuff. Very, very late. They used all of the road there. They had to as well. Alexander Christoph from absolutely nowhere. His team did most of the work, and he's picked up the biggest prize in one-day racing.
What a great win. He looked delighted as he crossed the line. Just came past Magnus Cort Nielsen, who looked almost disgusted as he crossed the line. A big, big win for Alexander Christoph, and a very, very disappointing Tour de France, of course. This is the moment where Sam Bennett was launched by Selig. Selig now swinging off. Bennett goes on the inside. A real good bit of sprinting there. They're sprinting, remember, into a headwind here, but Alexander Kristoff, number 43 there, has got the ideal position, and you can just see now, Kristoff takes the lead, turning a huge gear. Magnus Cort Nielsen on the left-hand side, closing fast, but holding steady is the Norwegian powerhouse, punches the air with delight. That's a real deserved victory, just considering the work rate of his teammates in holding that group out in front and bringing them back in the end. But a wonderful victory by the Norwegian.
Well, Sky went one side of the road and the winners went the other, I'm afraid, this time by. Wow, what a great run that was. Great effort as well by Sam Bennett to impose himself. Magnus Cort Nielsen was involved there for Orica Scott. But, well, keeping it Scandinavian, I guess you might say, or indeed Norse. Alexander Kristoff, well, I'd said he was on the ascendancy form-wise. He's carried something out of the Tour de France, and that something is determination. And he made it pay today.
He certainly did. Just look at that. Punches the air as he crosses the line. I think it's is Cort Nielsen in second. A late throw of the bike by Sepp Van Mark on the left-hand side, but that wasn't going to deny Michael Matthews another place on the podium in this race. So that is your 1, 2, 3. But you've got to take your hat off to Katusha. The amount of riding they did on the front, particularly Mads Worth-Smith and Niels Pollitt, Marco Haller as well. But he delivered, he timed his sprint to perfection and has taken a wonderful victory, and that means so much. As you said, come out of the Tour, but still that self-belief and the belief clearly of his team. Had a lot of pressure on his shoulders coming into the last few kilometres there, but boy, did he deliver. What a finish that was.
I enjoyed that. Absolutely superb. Well, the London-Surrey Classic never fails to entertain. Here's your confirmation of the results. Alexander Kristoff takes it ahead of the Dane, Magnus Cort Nielsen, so Norway, Denmark, and then Michael Matthews of Sunweb in the frame ahead of Sepp Van Mark, Wouter Wippert, Jempe Drucker fading to 6th place ahead of Zach Dempster, Sam Bennett, Barbier and Ollie Nason. Sam Bennett, I thought, was a little bit higher placed than 8th, by the way, at the end, but nonetheless, caught behind a gap here. Alexander Kristoff, no doubt about the winner, and no doubt about the amount of effort that Katusha put into today. And for once, the work rate paid off. Kristoff will be delighted. Great effort. Here's that early drive. Rudiger Zelig is a great powerhouse. I think he could possibly win a few himself. Sam Bennett couldn't deliver on the promise, I think it's fair to say. And if you watch Zelig suddenly fade once he's actually done his job here and opens the door, I think they need to start thinking about letting Rudiger have his own run at this one. Nonetheless, there is Sam Bennett going for it. Hot on his wheel was the well-protected today Alexander Kristoff, despite the fact this team had done so much work. But just look over the far side, you'll see Sky, I'm afraid their challenge today was to end with naught. It's a shame for them, but a great result for the great Norwegian Alexander Kristoff. It's nice to be able to say that name again in a winning way.
Yeah, he's going to be extremely happy with that, and you can just tell by his face as he crossed the line there. A big win, and for sprinters, so important to get the confidence back. Big nod of the head there from Magnus Cort Nielsen. Of course, stage victory in the Vuelta last year wasn't to be for him, despite a great work rate, of course, by Orica Scott in the finale to deliver him to the line. But a great victory there for Katusha. Michael Matthews, fresh out of the Tour de France, could only manage 3rd. But I think, yeah, fair play to Kristoff there. And I think the team that actually laid it on the line, apart from Team Sky earlier on, was definitely Katusha. They were the only team with Sunweb who decided to chase. A couple of other teams came in very late to finally bring back that breakaway. But fair play to Katusha. Absolutely nailed that one. And in the last few hundred metres, Kristoff really delivered.
Biggest disappointment today, I think, probably Team Sky, the home team of essentially. You saw Viviani going over to the left-hand side of the road to try and find some space, really. He was crowded out, he had no backup, and I'm afraid he ran out of steam in the headwind. Here come the boys who've been at the coalface essentially today, and what a great job by Katusha. Rick Zabel leading over Marco Haller here, number 42. There's Niels Pollitt as well, who did his fair share of battling duties out there. They were more than impressive, I think it's fair to say. They were a fighting force, and Alexander Kristoff was the man who came first. Well, we're hoping that we are able to stay on to have a chat with Alexander Kristoff, who's just catching his breath at the moment. What about Bora? Sam Bennett didn't deliver. Started off as the day's favourite, even in this elevated company. No besmirching of, indeed, the talents of Sam Bennett, who's a fabulous rider. Just missed out at the very last. Rudy Gazelig looked very,
Huge
very strong.
congratulations.
Oh, here he is,
the
our winner.
peloton timed it to perfection there. Was that your tactics for today?
Yeah, we did not really go in so everybody was a bit free because we come just from the tour. We had 1 week rest, and you don't really know the shape because we didn't train too much. I had a great party at home a few days ago, and usually I race well after a few days after party, so maybe that's the tactics, to party every week and race in the weekend.
Obviously, a little bit of a disappointing tour for you, but you must be really thrilled to win here on the Mall in London.
Yeah, I have really good memories from here. I got a bronze medal in the Olympics, and I knew the course suits me well. I was struggling a bit out there in the climbs, but yeah, we managed to chase back. My team members, like Niels especially, was pulling really hard to come back, and yeah, he was really strong. And at the end, we did not get too much help from other teams, but the Sunweb helped us a bit, and yeah, at the end we timed it perfect, but it was a little bit on the edge, and in the sprint I felt good, and Michael delivered me really well, so yeah, I was really happy to see I could hold everybody behind me.
Well, that's it. Talk us through that sprint. A K to go. You come under Admiralty Arch there. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was quite a narrow corner, and then it stretches out, of course. It was no problem going through there, but yeah, I come actually on the Bora train on the wheel of Bennett, and I just waited for him to start because it's a little bit windy, so I knew it's going to be hard. And with 200 meters to go, I went out and just managed to hold the other guys behind me. So yeah, that's always a great feeling to see that you're coming first over the line. So it's quite a long time since last time I win. I was in Frankfurt, so yeah, in 1st of May. So it was a nice feeling to again win.
Amazing. Well, massive congratulations. Very well done.
Thank you.
Well, a man who turns a party into power, quite clearly. Party power delivered today. Third arm today, Michael Matthews, but such a great season it's been so far, we must say, of course, for Team Sunweb. When's the success rate going to end? Third home today, but he won't mind that, the man who took the green jersey at the Tour.
I think he'll take that. He said he's continued training off the back end of the Tour. Now going to have a well-deserved rest with his wife in Italy. But yeah, he's got to be happy for that, just coming off the back of the Tour. But as you say, he can decompress now, reconfigure, and look perhaps towards the World Championships in Norway towards the back end of the year.
Well, the engraving machine at Timpson's has been working overtime on that Volavon plate. Good for him. Meanwhile, Magnus Cort Nielsen, runner-up today, didn't look overly. I think the congratulations question was slightly misplaced, but he seems happy enough with second place today, nonetheless. I think it's the festival and a slightly larger Volavon tray. I think we're moving more towards the. You know, the bottle of port and a couple of glasses.
I'm looking at the two different diameters there. We are looking at quite a big diameter, possibly pizza-sized for our winner today.
Alexander Kristoff, our champion, waiting for an enormous platter. And there we are. He is our winner, and a glorious one at that.
And your winner, Alexander Kristoff.
Race to win, and why not? And in fact, he gets himself a beautifully fashioned flugelhorn by the looks of things, Matt.
It is. It's a flugelhorn of sorts. And very nice it is too. So
it
doesn't get a platter.
Thank you for your company. Party atmosphere here in London, and a great winner in Alexander Kristoff.